So it's not just case studies for real estate investor, but actually you only got one case study for real estate investor. It's a host of other stuff as well, and I apologise for the Proptech people in the room because I do a little intro to Proptech. Just a quick question, does anyone know what clap, charge, gift is?
Yes, it's a what 3 words.
Yes, it is. Okay. So yeah, I just thought I'd throw that in. It's a Proptech company that have mapped the whole world, and they mapped the whole world in grids of 3 meters by 3 meters, and they have a unique reference for each square, and this is here. So this is the address here. You can look that up if you're interested, but I think it's definitely my favorite bit of Proptech. Okay, so I've got about 30 slides and probably 10 minutes, so it's probably, well, you can do the maths, not many seconds per slide. So I'm going to do an intro to Proptech, I'm going to do an intro to Datscha, I'm going to run through the capital markets summary. So Datscha have just brought out a report, 2018 transaction report, so I'm going to summarise that and break the rules of presenting and actually read some of my slides. And then I'm going to show a case study which will tie in with what Malcolm said earlier about last mile delivery. So we're going to look up some planning applications in the centre of town for B8 storage and industrial. So there we go. So this is a quote by, it's a lot of linking with Malcolm. This is his chairman, Professor Andrew Baum and James Dearsley. So this is Malcolm's chairman, I should say. This is his or their definition of Proptech. So if you just have a read of that, because there's no point in me reading it out. And when you finish reading it out, just put your hands up so I know where to move on. Okay, and then we can use that picture later on. So the big thing here is mentality change. That's what Proptech's been kind of all about, really, because Proptech isn't new at all. It's been around for a long time, but it's got a lot of airplay recently, and the market, the commercial real estate market, I don't really know much about the residential real estate market, but the commercial real estate market has definitely had a paradigm shift towards Proptech recently, which is great because I'm selling it. That is a map of Proptech companies in the UK. Didn't have enough room on the screen for the global one, and we are somewhere up there, big data, commercial, so it's a huge market. I'm sure some of these won't be around in 3 to 5 years. Hopefully we will be. And then there's a summary just of price, well, of number of deals and investments. So back in 2013, you've got 27 deals and 143 million, and then it's going up 2017, 61 deals, and it's up to 730 odd million. So the trend is upward moving, and it continues to be so. This is an interesting slide. So this is how much impact Proptech has now and in the future, and how much you really need to know about it. So there are certain things you need to know about, like data, which is having an impact now, and there's other things like graphene, which you really don't need to know about, but it will have a future impact. I think that slide is quite interesting. Big data, which is where Datscha is somewhere in the middle. So, introduction to Datscha. We went live in Sweden in 2000, and at the time, the only online map that was available in the whole of Sweden was central Stockholm. So Datscha was ahead of its time at the time. We went into Finland in 2010, and as you can see, UK, we launched 2016. We are a big data company. We aggregate multiple data sets, land registry, Companies House, Ordnance Survey, rating agencies, etc. We aggregate them all together and present them in a nice user format. We obviously have mapping, and we include exporting and reporting, which we'll come on to in a minute. That's taken us since 2000. So the reality of us branching into other countries was much slower than Jonathan's aspirations of world domination within a few years. We're at the mercy of the country kind of land registries. So our country to country is not quite as rapid as we would like. So these are just a graphical representation of some of the data sources we have. We have an in-house research team, which we'll come on to in a minute. They provided the data for the report, which I think is next. There we go. So this is a summary of the transaction report, which we've recently brought out. It's available if you want it in PDF format. And I think it's we turned it into a nice video this time, which I haven't got here, but it is on our website. So the numbers, basically, I mean, I will read some of this out to you, but I'm sure you can read it very clearly. So the transaction volumes, 2018, 65.7 billion. This is deals above £3 million and includes portfolio deals. We only analyse deals above 3 million. There's far too many deals below, but we do have them in our service because we use all the land registry price paid data, the commercial price paid data. Largest transaction, 1.16 billion, and well, you can read the other bits. I'll move on to the next slide. Again, you can read these, but I'll go through them. So the industrial sector totaled 9.1 billion, 12% decline on 2017. The decline, our research team reckons it was driven by a lack of available stock rather than a lack of demand or pricing. And according to Malcolm, that is going to continue for the foreseeable before there's a price adjustment. Largest investor in 2018, as you can see, is Blackstock and M7 joint venture, spending over 1.7 billion on industrial assets. And the REITs were also active in the sector, as you can see, spending over £1 billion in 2018. Apparently, when a man is tired of London, he is tired of life. There you go. So there will probably be investments in London for years to come, I would imagine, given that it's a global city. It accounted, totaled over 31 billion and accounted for 48% of all UK activity, which is 1% higher than 2017. As you can see, city volumes totaled 21 billion, and 90% of all investment in the city came from foreign investors, the majority from Asia. So this is a little summary of the central London office transactions. The largest one being the Goldman Sachs at 1.16 billion, and the smallest being the Adelphi John Adams Street at 550 million. This is all this stuff is available in the report, by the way. And it's videoized, which I don't even know whether that's a word. So this is just a summary of transactions by region for 2018. Scotland, North West and London. And East Midlands, largest deal. So this is a snippet from Datscha. So this is from our transactional database where we show the price, whether it's been confirmed by Land Registry. In this case, it's not, it's approximated. So this is our research team finding out about the deal, adding it to the system, and we wait for the Land Registry file to come in. We overwrite the price if it's not accurate, and we state that it's a Land Registry deal. So our users know that it's accurate and worthy of being trusted. So that's the largest deal in East Midlands, which was Hammersmith sold a stake to a Japanese bank, and then you've got largest deal in West Midlands where Hana Financial bought in Birmingham. And again, what we do, we tie the underlying asset which we have in Datscha to the transaction data. So we make it nice and seamless for our users. I don't think anyone else does that because they don't have this underlying data. Again, another summary. So this is the regions. As you can see, the winners and the losers for 2018. London being a winner, West Midlands, Yorkshire and Humber, and East Midlands and Scotland. All the others saw a decline in investment in 2018. Some of this may not be new to you, may be new to some. So this article came out yesterday in City AM, and it was also in Biz Now this morning. So this is quite topical. It's basically a repeat of a lot of the information that was in our report. They used it for their article. And the pretty pictures are just in case you didn't know where they were. That's the other half of that article. Not to scale the pictures. So South Africa, Saudi Arabia and Israel were the other major sources of buyers from outside the UK. China, as you can see, China and Hong Kong made over £2.3 billion worth of purchases. Although a fall of 40%, we reckon, due to the spending restriction by the Chinese government. Okay, so I'm just going to run through a use case. Not sure how I'm doing for time, but it's probably okay. Perfect. Okay, so this is one of many use cases that you could use Datscha for, or any similar type software for basically targeting a particular property. So, as I said before, Malcolm mentioned the last mile delivery. So I thought we would do a search for, what did I put in? For planning permissions with B8 storage in the City of London and Westminster, rateable value above 100,000 and 5,000 square feet or more. So that resulted in 19 hits in the database. And our database doesn't show what's available, whether it's being marketed, it just shows what is there in existence. And it shows who owns it, how long they've owned it for, and other attributes of the property. But these are the hits based upon those criteria. So what I've done is I have mapped them. So you can see there's one up in Maida Vale, there's a couple west, mainly in the West End and a few in the city. So I've picked one of those, which is, I think it's number 13 or number 9 down in Germain Street. So this is the example. So this is, as the arrow points to, this is the planning permission that has been applied for B8 storage in this particular property in Mayfair, and it's been granted, and it's going to be used for something, of that nature. And this is happening more and more in cities. So if I go from here and click up on the property tab, this then takes me to the underlying property within Datscha. So you can see who the owner is, how long they've owned it for, or whether there's been a change of title, could be the same owner. You can see the related leasehold to the property and the title of that particular property. And then clicking on the planning tab, this takes you to the planning. So you see the same data that we did from the 2 slides ago, but this is tied to that property. So it's a very easy way of seeing targets that you want to invest in a particular location that fit a particular criteria. And I think the last slide is this one. So this just shows the 2 subject properties, the planning applications. You can also see, the dots look pink to me here, but they are red. You can also see all the other surrounding planning applications in the vicinity, all the other transactions, that's capital, leasehold and freehold transactions, and all on the same map, basically. And I could have the property borders on and all the other freeholds in the area, you could draw a polygon around it and just extract the data that you want for that particular block. And I think that is the end.
Who's got a question for Olly?
In the use case you gave,
Yeah.
who was using it and why were they doing it?
That's a very good question. I was doing it, and I was doing it for this. We've had investors and agents run through this kind of scenario. I mean, that's the short answer. So it's a real kind of case study. Hi.
Yeah, just in the front row.
Would this be used for property investor looking for areas and types of properties to invest? Say you're trying to find an area that you're looking to invest.
No, but I know a person that does have a system that is good for that. So yeah. Do you wanna ask that, or should we come on to that?
Why don't we finish with your question?
Okay. No, this really is. It doesn't give you the characteristics of an area. It really just shows you what's there, who owns it, how long they've owned it for, the attributes of the property. It doesn't show what's on the market. It's really used to broker off-market deals more than anything. And I've spotted a client of ours in the room who's probably used it for that very thing.
Any more questions?
So just basically, this platform aggregates different data sources, so coming from the registry, from different council plan information set, and put that in just this platform, so that it would be one-stop searching.
It'd certainly be a one-stop searching as a pre-due diligence tool. Yeah, you could go quite far in a very short space of time and decide if something's got legs in a fraction of the time that you would go to if you had to go to all the different sources. If you then wanted to take it further, you would have to go beyond Datscha and delve into the detail. But you could analyze multiple potentials in a fraction of the time. Yeah.
How does the quality of the data sources in the different countries that Datscha operates in vary?
That's a good question. We're only in 3 countries, as you know, Sweden, Finland, and the UK. As you would imagine, the data in Sweden is very good. They were horrified when they arrived in the UK and they took a sample of data from Land Registry, and even more horrified when they got the full data set from Land Registry and tried to import it into Datscha, because they thought, well, let's use the Land Registry addressing. And the Land Registry addressing, some of the examples are land to the south of, a pillar box on the corner of this road and that road. And that's very difficult to match with a system. So we use all 4 addressing systems in the UK. I didn't even know there were 4. There's the VOA, there's Land Registry, there's Royal Mail, and there's Valuation Office. And they're all crap. Which is why what 3 words is so interesting. So yeah, it does vary massively, and the UK is the worst out of the 3.
Okay. One more, last one.
Will you open up your APIs soon? Or?
We may do. It really depends. We're kind of tied because we have data from 2 very kind of active government agencies in terms of providing data. So it'd be very difficult to us to open APIs and just, let people just suck it all out. They're quite strict about the way it's used and who uses it. So it's a possibility, but I couldn't say for sure. Hi.
So you mentioned that you use 4 different types of sources for your data. So how do you control the quality of your data then?
We use more than 4 sources. We can't. We're the biggest data cleansers of Land Registry in the UK. We'll phone them up and say you've got an error, and it turns out to be, say, 300,000 errors. But they send, one of their data sets is 24.4 million records. So 300,000 is quite a small number, although quite a large number at the same time. We cleanse it as much as we can. the data source for a national database, we try and avoid data sets that have an accuracy of less than 85%, and then we tend to use the ones that have a 90% plus accuracy rate. But we can then just refer to the quality of the data that we get if someone complains about the quality of data in Datscha.
Okay, thank you very much, Ollie.
Okay.